Under Education, MTSS Leadership Group. The purpose of this item is to provide an overview of the multi-tier system of supports leadership work group and the work they have done on leadership development and creating a pipeline for future leaders. This presentation is for the board's information.
Yeah. And let me get my computer refixed here. I don't know what I did to it. Yeah, it seems to be good. I don't know what happened. My computer dropped out. I probably hit it as I did the paper. Thank you very much for coming tonight. We look forward to this report. It's another report on MTSS. We're anxious to hear.
Okay. Good evening, Superintendent John Allison, President Cheryl Logan, and board members. We are very excited to be here this evening and share our leadership work group information with you. Our team has worked really hard to put some systems into place to support our building leaders, and I think that you will be pleased with the results. Eric Holderman and I have been the co-chairs leading this work this year. And at this time, I would like to turn it over to Eric, who will explain to you the structure and the background of our leadership group.
The leadership work group was originally formed in January of 13. Our original charge was to have consistent implementation of a plan that develops and maintains leaders at all levels in a way that creates a pipeline for sustaining leadership within our MTSS framework. Over the past 2 years, we've explored several ideas on how best to address this charge. We believe we have found an excellent framework to do just that. We divided our leadership pipeline or our leadership development into 3 stages. Stage 1 we call the Future Leaders Academy. Second is the Assistant Principal to Principal stage. And the third stage we're calling our Principal Induction Program. Stage 1, or the Future Leaders Academy, is about recognizing potential leaders from within our ranks. We know there are fantastic teachers and data leaders and MTSS facilitators and more out there, and we want to strive to promote from within. To help with this endeavor, the Leadership Work Group has chosen to utilize the Performance Potential Matrix. The second component of our Future Leaders Academy is an event that has already occurred right here at North High that we called So You Want to Be an Administrator. More on this in just a bit. This slide then is the Performance Potential Matrix that I just spoke about. The Leadership Work Group shared this matrix with principals, asking them to place their teachers into one of the available 9 boxes, looking at 2 variables, the teacher's current performance and the teacher's potential. From this distribution of teachers, we then asked principals to nominate a small handful of teachers, specifically from boxes 7, 8, and 9, that they felt could potentially make good administrators. We asked for about 1 to 3 nominees from each building.
We then contacted these participants and offered it up for those participants to attend our So You Want to Be an Administrator night. You'll see in the next slide, you actually have a copy of our 2 sessions that we held that evening. It's split. At the very beginning, we had a panel of 2 from each level, a principal and an assistant principal from elementary, from middle school, and high school that went through a panel. We asked them 5 different questions, and then they gave their responses to the participants. Then we split off, as you can see. The one side actually went off and they went to a session with colleges. We invited different colleges to come and work with those students, or those teachers, those teachers who did not have their degree and were interested in becoming administrators or obtaining their administrative degree. We had 38 participants that evening who did not have their degree. We had 108 who did have their degree, with a total of 146 participants that evening, so we were really pleased with the results. Our universities that participated was WSU, Baker, Emporia State, and Newman. So we had 4 universities that came and gave their programs, and we gave them time to speak in their session. And then the participants could go out into the hallway and talk to the different universities about obtaining their administrative degree. Our other group then actually came into this room, and we took them through a different kind of a session on giving them tips. Since they already had their administrative degree, we gave them tips on how to develop their resumes, how to do interviews, what the leadership roles they should be participating within their buildings, things that kind of set them apart from other interviewers. So we just kind of went through and gave them a session with different tips and tricks and how to, get into the field. The great thing about that evening is my team, which is Bill Faflick, Alicia Thompson, and Robert Gardner, we have received a lot of questions and asking for help with our resumes and interview tips and leadership roles, asking for clarification with that, questions such as the stages of interviews. We discussed that with them, and then what levels of support that we have in place for our administrators as they enter into the field. That was a big question. What levels of support will I receive when I enter into that? The great thing about this is that it has generated a list of potential leaders within our district, and it also has given us a pipeline to draw upon as we start looking at some of those administrative roles. So as you can see, that part was developing our pipeline. The second piece is our assistant principal to principal. I'll give you these. Sorry, shift gears here. Our assistant principal to principal. You actually have a copy in your packet that is the needs assessment. So it's just a one-pager, yeah. Can everybody find that real quick? One page. The needs assessment, it looks like this. Okay. This was the actual needs assessment that we gave to APs and first-year principals, and then I know that Alicia and Bill liked it so well, we ended up doing it with all of our building leaders. So as you can see, what we did is we broke it down into different areas. So you can see under systems, we had time management, organization, budget, Apple Track, discipline, crisis management, PeopleSoft, evaluations. And what we did is we took these and we actually color-coded them. So you can see if they were blue, they felt like they were the expert under one of these particular areas. If they were green, they felt confident with it. If they are yellow, they wanted a little more work, and if they were red, they needed training in that. So then what we did is we took that and we grouped them. So great thing for us is with our AP academies, we've decided that we really wanted to build capacity. So in order to do that, we took some of these APs who said they were the expert in those areas, and we have had them develop some of the trainings, and they now are training some of their colleagues in some of these areas. We did the same thing with first-year principals. It gave us, this is just the elementary one for first-year principals, but it gave us a good idea of what kind of specific trainings they needed in their building and what kind of support systems we needed to put into place. And then you can see with our building leaders, this one happens to be the elementary building leaders. You can see we had a lot of green on there, so a lot of experience, but then we also had a lot of yellow. And so what, like Alicia and I did, we went through and we decided what kind of topics that we knew our administrators needed support in, and those are the things that we built into our AP principal and first-year principal academies. So you could kind of see this was just the evaluation that we gave to all of them so that they could go through it. Okay. The next thing that we did, and you have a copy of it, is our leadership team developed the AP checklist, and you have a copy of the checklist in front of you. We wanted you to see how we broke it down. We broke this down into the 4 areas: system, instruction, leadership, and culture. And what we did is we first of all did it with our team, put this together, and then we also reached out and we had a focus group of administrators and a panel, and we had them look at it and decide, if there was anything else that they wanted to add on this. Then we added all this together. But as you can see, if you look at the checklist, you have the pieces on the left-hand side, such as security, and then you would see what date were they trained, experienced, or exposed to this particular area. What people's resource or location do we have within our district for you to get help when you enter in and become a building principal? Who would you go to in order to cover some of these specific areas? And then a follow-up date if needed, that's where APs could say, you know what, I really think I need a little more information on that, and I want to meet with my building principal or my building mentor or my AP mentor, or a lot of them have come to me and said, hey, where do I find this info? And then they can take notes about specific things. They did receive this electronically, and they did receive this, hard copy. Most of them have chose to do electronically, and they're typing in all their stuff, so the fields will expand for them to make more notes so that they have everything they need when they would enter into their building. So actually, they're bringing this back to our April AP meeting, and we're going to do like a scavenger hunt. If there's any of these areas they don't know, they're to find somebody that does know that. This has generated a lot of discussion among our APs and even our principals that have assistant principals. Some of them are like, wow, I didn't even know about this area. I need to get this information too. So principals, I've had a lot of principals email and say, hey, can I have a copy of that checklist for me? I want to type on it. So it's been a great tool to help us grow our assistant principals and our first-year principals. The next thing that we put into place is, slide of my line. Okay. Our principal induction program. And this is, again, like you saw, the needs assessment that guided our first-year principal academy. And then we put into place a coaching tool that you also have a copy of in front of you. It says a tool to be used with mentor principals and new principal participants. And you can see this is a coaching tool that we're using with our second-year principals. It's been a great rubric for them to kind of go through and make sure that they have some of these expectations set in their building. They do this stuff with their staff. You can see this is also broken to our 4 areas of leadership, system, instruction, and culture. We discussed this at our second-year principal meetings, and I know that Mr. Gardner has been using the same format with his secondary. Any questions about that? Okay.
To this point, the Leadership Work Group has focused the majority of their time and effort into attendance centers. However, we have indeed begun efforts at non-attendance centers as well. The preliminary work that we've done on non-attendance centers parallels stage 2, or the assistant principal to principal stage that we've already discussed. The thought is that we could utilize the checklists that we created for the assistant principals and adjust it so that it fits the various roles and responsibilities of the non-attendance centers. So this on the screen is an example of the systems portion of that checklist that Shannon just talked about, where items that cross over from the attendance centers to the non-attendance centers are left on the checklist, but items that are not pertinent to the non-attendance centers are then removed. Supervisors at those non-attendance centers would have the freedom to obviously add specific items for their area as well. This one here this draft is an example concerning budgetary and financial items specific to AMAC and or the school service center. And so again, you would note there then something like latchkey would not be pertinent to a non-attendance center.
So as you can see with our leadership development, we have recognized and provided opportunities for future leaders from within our own ranks. We've trained assistant principals to be better APs and to be future principals. We've trained principals to be better principals and to be future district leaders. And we're really excited about our work because everything we're doing we're getting really good results from it. And then I do want to give credit where credit is due. We have an awesome team of leaders in our district that are a part of this work group. As you can see, we have building principals, building assistant principals. We also have like Julie Hedrick, who's a division director of facilities. I'm trying to think, Sean Chastain is on here as well for our fine arts, Becky Warren. So we have we have a very big diverse group that's working with this across the K-12 spectrum. Any questions for us?
This is wonderful. I'm very, very happy to see this. I appreciate your report because truly our administrators, just like our teachers, are getting older, and we need to begin to put the plan in place to be able to build quality people behind them. So how long have you been working on this?
This is our...
We started in January of 13, so a little over 2 years now.
And you first put it into place last year?
No, this school year.
This school year?
We've begun implementing these ideas, yes.
Great. So so
We
bigger
kind
and
of
better things
practiced
for the
last
future, right?
semester and
Yeah.
refined it and then brought it full force this year.
One of the key components that the work group was given as part of their work was the sustainability. So as we knew, budget, outside training programs, those types of things, while have value, we knew that we couldn't sustain that. So that's why it took time as they worked through where do we really get the value, what do our current administrators feel they need, and how do we develop those future leaders. So they've worked incredibly hard and been very diligent. The number of folks that were here for So You Want to Be an Administrator, I was a little surprised and then concerned that our mental health bills will go up on the health plan when I saw how many folks might actually consider that. But a wide range of folks and there for a variety of reasons. But it was good to see because in this business, everything's about talent, whether it's talent in the classroom or talent as the building leader. That's where we make the difference. So I do want to commend the work group on their diligence and hard work to get us there.
Great report. Thank you very much. Oh, it's not coming up. Did you have a question, Mike? Okay, it's not showing up on mine.
I can't let Mr. Holdeman get away without.
Okay, thank you.
Great program. This is really fun to see. What's the turnaround? When do we start to see people coming out of this program and being administrators at the next level?
Well, one point of clarification, even though we call it a pipeline, there's no mandate that you have to go through the entire pipeline. I mean, we have information, we have services, we have a system in place for every stage along the way. So is it possible that somebody could go through the entire program, start from the classroom and get into the pipeline and then become an assistant principal and then eventually become a principal and maybe on beyond that? Absolutely. A timeline for that is really fairly arbitrary. But do we have services for each stage? I think we do. I think we have systems in place for every one of those stages. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but
You are. Excellent program. Thank you very much, guys.
Okay, I apologize. My computer's not showing it, so I'm using my partners over here. So Barbara, you're up, please.
Before I ask my question, I do not mean to be negative, but I do have a concern because I know that you're getting some teachers, I would assume, that you're getting some very good teachers out of our classrooms to get into the pipeline and to do very good things, but then we have to replace those people with the same quality or better, depending on what we find. And I think I'm coming from the uncertain right now of where we are in public education and where we're going to be June 1 and so on and so forth. This is a fantastic program. I mean, you're going to have people going in that you know they can do what they can do, and they've had the training before they begin. But I am worried about the classrooms. I'll just be blunt. And maybe you are too, and you just didn't want to tell us.
Well,
Just
we
kidding.
honestly, when we first discussed this as a group, we thought, oh, we'll get 40 or 50 people. When 146 showed up, we're like,
Oh, now I'm
"Ooh,
really
good
worried.
turnout." I mean, there were a lot more people interested than we thought. And, we don't have the Inspiring Principal program any longer. And so we don't have that way to fund, where they go into, like those 38 teachers that came and we're looking at. I mean, that would be all on their own to get into the pipeline.
Yeah, and their degree, and it shows the opportunity.
And I might comment that this system that we've set up doesn't accelerate turnover in administration. It's still a natural attrition. This isn't forcing current administrators out of their current roles, and we're not adding more administrative roles. This is just a way to try to recognize talent from within the classroom. What better source than to look for quality teachers to become quality administrators?
And that's where I was coming from. So you're saying basically they could be in the classroom all year and going through this pipeline. Is that what you're saying?
They really don't get into the assistant principal support until they become an assistant
As a
principal.
principal.
So
So,
it wouldn't be where we're pulling them out of the classroom and doing that cross-training.
And this is just a method to better ascertain where our quality teachers are and where our potential administrators are. Just because somebody's a quality teacher doesn't make them necessarily a candidate for administration. They also have to have the interest and the desire as well. This So You Want to Be Administrator event was very telling.
yeah, and I'm very impressed with it. I just worry about the classroom.
Absolutely, absolutely.
John?
I think there's a couple things to address your question. So You Want to Be an Administrator is really an information night. And what you saw this evening is kind of that first step, because they do have to go through the coursework. And I think there's an advantage to getting some early exposure almost on a parallel basis as we think about it to them starting the coursework. Because if you really have a better understanding of what you're getting into, we have fewer folks that decide they get into it and it's not for them and it's not the best fit. If you think to the way teacher preparation programs have changed and getting students early on into schools to see what's happening versus where most of us a few decades back going through those programs, your first exposure to actually being in the classroom was when you did your student teaching and you were finishing up your degree, which I had classmates that suddenly realized this isn't for me, and now what do I do? So, as we look at what do we do to develop our current administrators, how do we help get a leg up on those that might have interest? At the same time, as this develops, I think our goal will be those that have started coursework really are similar a little bit to the aspiring principals concept that are showing they're moving through an administrative program. Then we can tailor that learning opportunity about our district. So they're getting that other piece, and then when they become an administrator, who do I call when I got a security issue? All those things that put extra pressure when you're brand new, we can help mitigate some of that. So I don't think we're going to steal the classrooms blind by any mean, but we want good instructional leaders, and those are going to be the folks that are instructional leaders in the classroom.
Can I comment?
Uh-huh.
I agree with everything you've said. But now my question now becomes, this is our own program that's been put together by USD 259. So the only way they're going to a university is to get the necessary certification and licensure.
Right.
And that would be on their own, not a part of this program.
Not a part. So,
Okay.
they're showing interest, and they've still got to go to one of the universities, complete the program and the certification and the exams. This doesn't change any of that, but it kind of gives us who might be interested and helping give them the nudge to get started. And then as we watch and identify those folks as they move through the university programs, then we can decide how do we put the support underneath them so when they are in our candidate pool, they're exactly where we want them with the base knowledge that they have.
Joy?
Well, thank you. I really wanted to follow up on something Ms. Fuller said, and I think, see, if this is where I heard your concern, because this is my concern, is that I am not taking anything away from our administrators, because I love you guys and what you do. But the way we have, not we, our district, but our culture has structured education is that really quality classroom teachers, for them to advance in their career and in their pay, they sort of have to go down the administrator path because we value that, and there are more requirements for you, so I'm not knocking that. But what I'm saying is when you have a very high quality teacher in the classroom, their ability to move forward in their career, in their goals and the money they make and all of those things is hampered by the way we've structured education in our country. So is that, that's a little bit of what, I think as we move forward as a culture, I hope we'll look at, because administrators are extremely important to what happens every day. And so, and I think this is a great, to identify your leadership and people who are interested in it, and then to have a way to get them through a pipeline to get there is amazing. What I'd like us to see in our culture is to also figure out a way to find those amazing teachers, and we give them awards and we do great things for them, but how do we allow them to advance in their careers the way that the rest of us do? So I'm a programmer, I'm a consultant, I can just keep getting clients, I can build my business, I can make more money, and there's no stopping. And for teachers, there's kind of a plateau for them, and those of you in education have seen that. So it's kind of it's not something we can solve here, but just something that I've noticed and I'm concerned about as well for our educators. I want them to continue to be able to grow and not have to necessarily leave the classroom to do it, but to be able to do it where they feel most called and valued. Thank you.
Betty?
Well, I'll share something that's just a little bit different, because one of the things that I know about great teachers, they look for a great leader. If you talk to a teacher that's looking at a building, the first question that they ask is about who the leader is there. So I know from that kind of environment, if you start out as a great teacher, then yeah, there's a good probability that you can be a great administrator. The other thing is, just because they are a great teacher, I don't want to seem as though we want to keep you at this level because you're doing so great. If it's their aspiration to move on, then I think we have that responsibility to help them do that. So I'm really excited. Yes, I'd love to have all great teachers and all great administrators, as I'm sure every board member here would. I don't know if we can impact that, but I love the idea that if this is something you would like to do, and that's an individual decision, if you would like to advance into leadership, then we're going to help prepare and encourage. So if I had my pom-poms, I'd wave them, rah, rah. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
You have done a great job. We appreciate your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item, Mike.
Consent.